Okay, now it's our official start, so welcome everybody. Hopefully we had some good conversations around birthdays, some interesting ones during the time of COVID came up at our table. And now I'd like to call Lorraine Holman up for our invocation and pledge.
Will you please bow your heads with me? Let us pray silently together, each one of us, according to our individual beliefs. Let us offer thanks for our food and blessings for one another. Let us be a source of hope for those in need and contentment for those who are lonely. Let us give gratitude for our opportunity to serve Rotary. Let the feelings of compassion, kindness, and respect always be reflected in our actions as we serve our community. And a special prayer today for teachers and students of Greenville County as they start school. Amen. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I have our guest today. Now, if you would stand when I call your name so we could know where you are, so we can introduce ourselves after the meeting. We have Miss Abigail Smith, David Neese, Laura Lunekis, Mr. Michael Oliver, Miss Stacy LaMonaco, Doc Giddings, Jimmy and Sheila Bonaparte, and Mr. David Carter, and then a visiting Rotarian, JT Wu. Thank y'all.
I'm honored to introduce our 2020 Service Above Self Scholar, Janice Bonaparte. Janice is majoring in biology and minoring in medical humanities and has a very, very impressive 3.917 GPA. Yeah, wow. As she heads into her senior year, I asked her what's been the most surprising, challenging, and best parts of her college experience. The hardest is trying not to compare yourself to others and instead focus on what's going on in your own life. The best is the friendships and opportunities. But my favorite is she believes she's been able to make a positive impact on the College of Charleston while growing personally. Please welcome Janice.
Good afternoon, everyone, and I'm excited to give you all an update of what's been going on since I last spoke to you all last year. This past year, I focused on excelling in life overall in my academic career, while making sure my mental health was in check a bit better than usual. Midway through my junior year, I reached a point of burnout and essentially felt like everything around me was falling apart. I made the same mistake my junior year of high school, as I realized I always put too much on my plate around this time and tried to balance my life, extracurriculars, and my academics, which is not easy. But I realized that it felt like life around me, like I said, was falling apart. I began to question my life, my journey, my future, and just thinking about all the what ifs. Luckily and thankfully, I've had a supportive community around me throughout these challenging times, and I realized I've come back more motivated and more resilient. I continue to flourish and prosper in life despite these challenging times, and realize that it's not about the pace of others in society, as it leads to stress and anxiety rather than fulfillment. Aside from my academic career and my course load, I involved myself in an environment that brought me joy. I became involved and became a peer coach for the Office of Institutional Diversity and a peer advisor for the Center of International Education throughout both semesters of my junior year. Not only was I able to help others study abroad as I did in my fall semester of my sophomore year, I was also able to mentor 8 amazing students. Both of these positions were well outside of my comfort zone, but especially becoming a mentor. I never envisioned myself guiding others as my mentors have guided me, but it has been a heartwarming experience. Thankfully, I get to continue in both of these positions and working with both of these offices in the upcoming year. Aside from these two positions, I volunteered at MUSC Urban Farm the entirety of my spring semester. The MUSC Urban Farm mission is to build healthier communities by growing crops and social interactions, by educating and inspiring people with local, nutritious, and delicious foods. As an inspiring physician, I realized the importance of nutrition, not only to your physical well-being, but your mental health as well. Over the years, as I've shadowed various physicians in different healthcare fields, I first-handedly saw that nutritional advice tends to be given when health issues are already there rather than as a preventative measure for their patients. I would like to be there for my patients and give them the advice and tools that they need to better their health and improve their health without a plethora of medications. Aside from this summer, I began studying for my MCAT while also partaking in Alzheimer's disease research at MUSC full-time. This summer has been challenging, the least to say, but it has been very worthwhile. I realized that time management and sacrifices will be crucial throughout my senior year in my medical journey, but it just showed me what's to come and pushed me to new limits that I never imagined myself would be able to take on. I will continue my research when I return back to Charleston, and I also presented my current research this past Friday to a group of doctors, friends, family, and other students. I have my abstract about the research I've been doing, and if anyone would like to know more information after the meeting, I would be glad to talk about it and let you all read this. In less than 2 weeks, on August 19th, I will be taking my MCAT. So please wish me the best of luck. Thank you for your time today and your support that you all have given me over the past years. And I can't wait to see what's in store for my senior year. Thank you.
Do you know that if you live in a southern state, you have a greater chance of dying from Alzheimer's? Mississippi, Alabama, followed by Washington State, Arkansas, and Louisiana have the highest levels. We're just slightly behind them. Now, the places where people are born, live, and work are known as social determinants. And these conditions have a profound effect on a person's health, including their risk of Alzheimer's. So the CDC goes on to say the buildup of beta amyloid plaques and the tangles that cause Alzheimer's are a contributing cause, but the social conditions are, for some people, a much greater risk before that chemical change even begins to happen in their bodies. But now, I mentioned last week, and I'm going to just mention one more time, last month the FDA approved Leqembi. It got first approval. And basically, it's a drug that's priced around $2,200 a month. The Medicaid and Medicare say they're going to aggressively try to subsidize it. And for patients in the early stage of dementia, this drug is not a cure, but it removes the plaque and that is already formed and prevents more plaque from forming. So your CART effort really helps battle this disease. For everyone here and for your family, put your pocket cash in the blue bucket and make sure that you realize that everything that you put in that bucket is going to be matched by a member. And this month's member is Wayne Cobb. Wayne focuses his practice on litigation, appellate advocacy, education, internal investigations, and government representation. Since joining WIKE in the fall of 2011, Wade has extensive experience in high-stakes commercial litigation, representing both plaintiffs and defendants in state and federal court, and handling for major national and international corporations involved in antitrust, breach of contract, and trade disputes. Powerful guy. Before joining WIKE, he was a law clerk with the Honorable Ed Kearns on the United States Court of Appeals in the 11th Circuit. Active in the community, Wade is a member of numerous boards and nonprofits, including the Palmetto Project, Carolina Youth Symphony, and of course, here the Rotary Club of Greenville, where he is our immediate past president. Now, I'll now ask you to make Wade pay. scan the side of the bucket or drop a few extra dollars in the blue bucket if you would. Thank you.
It is my honor to introduce our speaker for today. Andrea Smith is the Executive Director, CEO of Senior Action, where she has served for 16 years. Under her leadership, the organization has grown from 900 members to close to 5,000, has expanded from 3 locations to 8 throughout the county, and has purchased a 48-unit affordable housing apartment complex for seniors. And in 2021, opened one of the largest senior centers in the state. Senior Action offers hundreds of classes and programs each month to keep seniors active and enjoying life to the fullest. And I have to admit, I'm one of those people that takes classes there, so you don't have to be 55. Just sort of kind of point that out. So, pottery class is highly recommended. But anyway, they also offer services including medical transportation, lawn care assistance, affordable housing, and in the new center, a one-of-a-kind fine arts center for seniors, or those of us who are young seniors. Ms. Smith holds her undergraduate and Master's of Science degree in educational psychology from Baylor University in Waco, Texas. She has served her 33-year professional career in community research and development, and 23 of those years was focused on the senior adult population. Andrea has served on a variety of local, state, and national boards and task forces, such as United Way Investment Committee, Greenville County Transportation Task Force, Affordable Housing Task Force, Tenant the Top Senior Issues Group, the SCDOA Task Force for Seniors in Isolation, as well as others. She has been a presenter at the National Association of Catholic Hospital Administrators, National Hospital Executives, and TEDx Greenville. She has served as a president of the Blue Ridge Institute for Community Service Executives in 2019 and was named a 2023 South Carolina Women in Business Award recipient. She is currently an empty nester with 2 daughters, 23 and 22. And so she probably looks familiar to you because she's been to a number of our meetings, because Abigail is one of our Rotary scholars who graduated from Furman and is fixing to start seminary school. So am I saying it? Divinity school at Duke University in a few weeks. So kudos, great Rotary scholar. Woohoo! And then she has another daughter who's 22. They've just graduated from college, so are flying the nest. She's an active member of Greenville Fellowship and lives in Greer. When she's not working, which is not often, she can be found wearing a tool belt in the midst of some home remodeling, reupholstery, or construction projects. Most recently, she has become an avid crocheter. Welcome, Andrea Smith.
I'm going to really upset the camera people because I cannot stand behind this podium. So I'm going to make you work hard today. Good afternoon, everybody. So it's very exciting to be here with you today to talk about my favorite subject, and that is aging. And I hope today that when you leave, you're going to learn some things that you didn't know before, or you're going to think about some things a little differently than you've ever thought about them before. And that's not going to be that hard to do because statistically speaking, seniors are the lowest priority in America for social issues. Think about that a second. The lowest priority. They rank behind stray cats and dogs even. So I hope that maybe I can give you some things to think about today. And I hope that I'm going to click this the right way. There we go. All right, this chart here is showing how our population in America is shifting. It started in the 1950s, and you will see that more and more people, we are all aging as a population. We all know that because the baby boomers, right? We all know that statistic. That's not new information. But what is interesting is because of the low birth rate and that people are living longer, our society is getting older. So first of all, raise your hand high and proud if you were over 55 years old. Look at those good rotator cuffs. Look at that. Keep them up, keep them up, keep them up. All right. Now, how many of the ones who don't have your hands raised hope to be 55 one day? Look at that. So what I'm talking about affects everybody in this room. And actually, there was a big percentage of you that had your hand raised to start with. So let me talk to you a little bit about seniors in Greenville. We currently make up 30% of the population. So we have 155,000 seniors in Greenville County, and that's a big hunk of the people who live in Greenville. Statistics are telling us that's getting bigger and bigger all the time. And within a few years, people over 55 will outnumber people below 55 by a lot. 39% of the seniors in Greenville live alone. That's kind of an interesting thing to think about. 63% of them have a higher education degree. So we are more educated than most places in South Carolina. I don't know if that helps us any, but we are more educated. 14% of us have served as veterans of the military. Here's another interesting statistic that you may not have thought about. 1 out of 3 are still working. Now, a lot of people think about seniors and you think about people who are retired, living the life. In Greenville, 25% of 70-year-olds still work full-time. Is that a myth buster for anybody? All right. And then Greenville is a top city to retire. So that's a great thing about Greenville. We love the city and people are loving it and coming here to retire. But this brings some challenges when you have this many people of this age group. First of all, there are 60,000 people in Greenville who are living in poverty, and 22% of those are seniors. That's a lot. We have a community that was born from the textile mills, and a lot of those people worked in textile mills, and that's how they supported their families, and they're now retired and they're living in poverty. 30% of seniors in Greenville live on Social Security alone. And that is a recipe for dependence on charity. You cannot make your ends meet when you live on Social Security alone. And interestingly, that's a large number of people. Also, research is telling us that baby boomers are not great about financial planning. The generation that we recently lost, where debt was a foreign concept to them. So most of those people owned their homes, had no debt. That is not the case with baby boomers. Some of them have multiple mortgages, have boats, cars, etc., that they have a mountain of debt. And when they are getting ready to retire, it's going to keep them from retiring, which is why they're going to work till they're 70 years old. Another interesting factoid, 44% of 18 to 49-year-olds are actively caring for an aging parent. So I'm going to ask you to participate again. Raise your hand if you are actively right now caring for an aging parent. Okay, let me define what caring means. How many of you have had to make doctor's appointment visits with your parents? Okay, how many of you have had to worry about how they're getting somewhere? How many of you are worried that they're alone at home? All right, but the statistic here is literally talking about they might live in the home with them. They may be going to all their doctor's appointments. They're their sole source of transportation. 50% of seniors are also providing regular childcare. One of the things that United Way focuses on a lot is that we are a childcare desert here in Greenville. Well, part of the issue that's not captured is that senior citizens are helping with that problem. If we didn't have seniors caring for children while their parents work, we would really have a bigger crisis than we already have. This is my parents, so I had to show them off. But there is an effect on the community. So this is what I'm trying to sum up and say. There are nutrition impacts to the community. There are healthcare impacts to the community. There's public safety issues, transportation issues, and housing issues that are all related to an aging population. A lot of people haven't thought about this little fun fact. When baby boomers turned 6 and started first grade, the education system could not handle the number of people. It was such a massive amount of people dumped into education at one time that they had to do school in shifts. And when I tell this story with my seniors, a lot of times they'll say, oh yeah, I remember that. But the first group came in from 8 to 12, second group came in from 12 to 5. Those people are now using hospital care. Those people are now using housing situations and demanding services from us. And we have not prepared adequately for that enormous demand on our system. But I also believe very strongly that seniors make our community a better place. If you look at other European countries where seniors are very integrated into the community, they are healthier, they're thriving. It's a healthy community. If you have seniors who live in your neighborhood is going to be safer. If you have seniors in your life, they help you with wonderful perspective. When you think about our political issues right now, seniors can say, oh, I remember back when, and it really helps you kind of have great conversations about things that were invented or other things that we've worked our way through as a country together. So I want to dig a little deeper into a specific issue around seniors. And this is something that has really boiled up to the top in the last several years as the #1 issue facing the senior population. It hit all of us pretty hard during COVID. And so everybody got to feel it, but the senior population has been struggling with it for a long time, and that's social isolation.
Alone.
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 Alone. Lost.
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 Invisible.
Invisible. Invisible.
Invisible.
Old.
Social isolation is very bad. As a matter of fact, it's killing people. So let me define what I mean by social isolation so we're all on the same page. Social isolation is not that easy to say. Did you notice how I messed that up? So social isolation is defined as objectively being alone. And it has few relationships with people, few contacts with the outside public. However, loneliness is defined as subjectively feeling alone. That's when you want to be with people, but you can't. And those are very different things, but they're both still issues that we study. 45% of people reported experiencing social isolation and loneliness. This is all age groups. So when you think about our society today, there's a lot of people who are isolated and alone. The U.S. Surgeon General declared isolation an epidemic, and that was way before COVID. And it has grown exponentially since then. People have not really recovered from the loneliness. There are people that still haven't returned back to work. There are people watching this on TV right now who aren't here at the meeting because people haven't realized that they need to get back together. It's really, really important. Isolation has been used for centuries as a form of torture. When I was in graduate school, which was a long time ago, we studied where you could put somebody in a room all by themselves and watch how long it took them to lose it. And it was really, that was back when you could torture humans in research. This tells you how long ago it was. But I mean, it's a horrible, horrible thing to be put alone in solitary confinement. Humans are social animals. But seniors are particularly at risk because they live alone. I just told you 29% of the seniors live alone. They also have lost family, friends, their spouses have passed away. They're surrounded constantly with people dying. They have chronic illnesses that make it hard for them to get out and participate in things the way they'd like to. And then they have mobility issues, hearing issues, sight issues. They lose the ability to drive, which makes you more and more isolated. It's like every day you're fighting a battle, to try to keep yourself engaged with the community. So what is the impact? Well, researchers are telling us it is literally changing our brain chemistry. The more time people spend alone, their brains are being rewired, and it's impacting a lot of our physical health, not just the things that you would think. Physical health is impacted. People have higher degrees of heart disease. They have strokes. Type 2 diabetes is higher. Obesity is much higher. Anybody gain weight during COVID? There's behavioral health issues. A much, much higher incidence of depression, anxiety, suicidality, addiction issues are showing up. And then there's cognitive health issues, mental health, dementia, Alzheimer's. Y'all are talking about Alzheimer's earlier. There's a much higher incidence in the South. There's a much higher incidence with people who are alone. And Alzheimer's disease itself is very alienating and isolating. There's also an economic impact. There was a study done a few years ago that's just really punched me in the stomach. $6.7 billion is spent by the federal government above and beyond for people who are alone. So when they do all the Medicare payments and all that stuff shakes out, For those people who are alone, we spend $6.7 billion more dollars for those folks. The other impact that I talked about, caregivers who are taking care of family, they miss work. They have lack of productivity. They have a lower quality, and they struggle with their work, and the companies are also seeing the result of that. Caregivers who are taking in their families, they exhaust their savings. Sometimes they lose their homes. They have all kinds of financial stress and debt. And so there's a huge impact on our community of how do we care for this huge group of people. You know, we can't just keep doing what we've been doing. We got to do school and shifts. You know, we got to figure out a way to care for these folks. But the most important statistic is that there's a 29% increase in death and mortality for people being socially isolated and alone. This chart is really, really compelling. We've talked for years about the damage of smoking and the damage of excessive drinking to your body, the sedentary lifestyle. Everybody's talking about sitting is the new smoking. You heard that expression. But look how they rank on this chart next to social connection and social isolation. They're not nearly as bad on people's health. There is no other health factor that has such a large impact on both your length of life and your quality of life than being socially isolated. So what are some solutions? I want to talk about positive solutions. This year I participated in a task force. It was a statewide task force, and it was conducted by the Institute of Medicine and Public Health. You can find this on their website if anybody's interested in reading this document. But it focused on the issues of social isolation and what are some recommendations that we can put forth to the community, how to address it, and how to solve it. Very interesting book. We spent a lot of time on that. But one of the things that came out of this study was we need more senior centers. We need more places for people to go and be together. Being together is really, really important. However, a lot of people think, well, there's plenty of funding for that. Technically, there's not at all. This is a report done on South Carolina, and you can see here that South Carolina ranks 47th in the amount of money the state spends on community support for seniors. How many states do we have? We've got to do better. I mean, we've got a huge problem facing us, and it's just making a lot of things worse. So Senior Action is one of those solutions. Scott told y'all a little bit about Senior Action when he introduced me. But we were an organization that was established in 1967. How many of you ever heard of Senior Action before? Raise your hand. Oh, good. That's great. Sometimes I do that in the room, and they're like, nobody's heard anything about it. We've been here since 1967. We were actually formed by the 5 churches in downtown Greenville: a Catholic church, a Baptist church, an Episcopal church, a Presbyterian church, and a Methodist church. And I like to say, when 5 denominations agree on something, it's the Lord's will. I can only say that because I'm a pastor's kid, so I can make that joke. But anyway, we were created because the people in the community at the time recognized the huge need for people to have a place to be and belong and have an identity together and share life together. That is so critical for the senior population. So as Scott mentioned earlier, we serve about 5,000 seniors a year. We have a long way to go. We have 155,000 seniors in Greenville County. And so to me, I see that as it's a drop in the bucket of the people that we could be serving. Membership, a lot of people don't understand this. We do have a membership program. It is not required, but it does give you a discount on programs. We accept a lot of insurance programs. I mentioned earlier that there's no funding for these kinds of programs. The only people who have figured it out is the insurance companies. Think about that a minute. Insurance companies will pay for you to go to a senior center because it saves them money. So this is what I mean by there's an incentive for us as a community to invest in this kind of work. And many of our programs are offered at no cost. We understand, back to the point about people living on Social Security, we understand this population does not have a lot of extra money. They spend a lot of money on medications and basic needs, and they don't have a lot of money for this, which is super critical for their life. So some of the things we offer, we have a very robust health and wellness program. Our main centers have multiple classes a day. You get a little touch, some of those pictures there. I don't know if some of these pictures change your perspective of what seniors look like. Because a lot of times people picture seniors and they picture very, very frail, elderly, unable to get out of bed. We're trying to prevent that. We want people to be as active and engaged as possible for as long as possible. There's a saying that we toss around a lot that says, live long, die fast. And I can tell you, to me, success is when a person comes into senior action on Tuesday, is exercising, takes the band class, goes home that afternoon, takes a nap in his chair, and doesn't wake up. Isn't that the way we want to go? That is great. We don't want to live in hospitals and in pain and dragging on with illnesses. We want to have a full life as long as we can. So we try to do that with our health and wellness program. Scott mentioned that this new center that we just built has a fine arts program. I'm a fine arts person. I was a fine arts student in Greenville County back in the day. And I think the fine arts are very, very important. It's an outlet for creativity. For some reason, we as a culture invest a lot in the arts when kids are young. And then we just drop it. I'm like, you still have a need. Scott Powell started taking pottery classes 2 years ago, right? I mean, we have a need to be creative. We have a need to produce things and make music and dance. And we still have the ability, and people oftentimes don't think we do as we age. And then we have a lot of social programs because, again, we believe strongly in making friends and being active. And there's nothing like walking into senior action and somebody saying your name, that, hey, it's good to see you. It's healing to people to have that experience. And you all feel that every time you come to Rotary, do you not? You walk in the door, somebody says hi to you, says your name, and that's what keeps you coming back week after week, month after month. And it also is what keeps you coming to y'all special events, and all of that is so, so important for you. So if I have to leave you with a takeaway, I'll get to my takeaway in a minute. I'm not done yet. Some other services that we offer, I want to make sure I get in. We do serve lunch at all of our centers every day. Lunch is a hub of a lot of the things that we do. We provide group transportation, which means we pick people up from their homes and drive them to our centers. So if you can't drive anymore, we try to help remove that barrier. We provide medical transportation to about 700 people in Greenville, get them to their doctor's appointments and back home. We also have a really neat program called Lawn Care Assistance. This program, we discovered, again through research, that can be the one thing that keeps people in their home. And it's the one thing that makes somebody have to move into assisted living is they cannot maintain their yard anymore. So that's something we got involved in several years ago. Affordable housing is another issue that we've invested in. We have an apartment complex in Greer that has 48 units. It's independent living. And this is our main center. This is brand new. We opened it up in 2021. We are very lucky to have Scott Powell as our architect and Andrea Kufis as our interior designer, Rotarians, and Brett Caldwell and Caldwell Construction was our construction company, which is also a Rotarians. So you could call this a Rotary project. Anyway, it's a great, beautiful building. It's gained a lot of attention locally, statewide, nationally. It is a one-of-a-kind place. I invite you to come see it. It will blow your mind when you come in, and not what you think of as a senior center. But we also have these other centers all over Greenville County. Have a little map there. Those other centers are partnerships with Greenville County Parks and Rec and the City of Greer. So we partner with a lot of people to try to expand our reach into the community.
Friend.
Friends.
Friends.
Friends. Family. Family.
Family. Family.
Fun.
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 Life.
So back to my takeaways. So takeaways for today. If you're not involved with social groups or clubs, and obviously if you're here, you are. But if you need to get more involved, do it. Do it while you're younger. Do it while you're healthy. Because when you get older and you need support, these are the people that are going to be there bringing you food, sitting by your side. So I cannot emphasize enough, get more involved with other people. As we age, that gets harder and harder to do. If you have parents that you're caring for who live in Greenville, go talk to them today. Get them out of the house. I left you our newsletter on the table so you can take and get an example of the kinds of things we offer. Get them involved. If you know people at your church that you think need to get out more, come with them. I mean, come take a class. Go sit next to Scott Powell and take a class next to somebody. Encourage them to get involved. I promise you it'll take one day. They'll come in, they'll make a friend, and they'll be hooked. And then the rest is history. I have a friend that sat next to me one day at a meeting just like this, and she said, I'm so worried about my mom. She's just, my father passed away. She's just alone all the time. I said, bring her to Senior Action, come have lunch with her. And she did. And I saw her probably 2 months later. And she said, oh my gosh, I never see my mom anymore. Every time I call her, she says, I'm up at Senior Action. She never has time for me. So yes, it's a great thing. So that's kind of our solution to this problem. Other solutions, I mentioned, we definitely need advocacy. Those of you who have the ear of elected leaders, we need people to advocate for funding for these kinds of programs. It's just not there, and not that sexy, but it is important, and it does save people's lives. So that's an area that you could advocate. Again, get involved with us. We need volunteers. We need board members. We need lots of things. And so we would welcome your involvement in that. And then leave today and talk to other people about why seniors in our community need our support and our love and our attention. When you see a senior in the grocery store, don't knock them out of the way so you can get in front of them. I actually had a senior tell me that the other day. The senior told me one day, and actually the guy who said he was, he's alone on the video, or he's an invisible. He said, I was the CEO of a company when I was working, and everybody, when I'd walk into the room, would stop and listen to everything I had to say. He said, now that I'm old and have gray hair, people literally bump into me like they don't see me. We just can't let that happen. We've got to love our senior population more. So at this point, any questions y'all have for me? Yes, sir. Our main location is off of East North Street. Somebody told me the other day that everybody who's grown up in Greenville always give directions based on what used to be somewhere. So we're next to the used to be Bilo on East North Street. Used to be Tuesday morning. We bought that. Actually, it's an interesting kind of story of how we're trying to make our ends meet and try to be forward thinking. But in 2019, we bought that shopping center, invested in that. We occupy most of it, about half of it, and then we rent out the rest of it for income to help support our programs. So that was one of our creative ways of trying to meet the growing demand. We have this week, I think we've had 100 new members join this week. I mean, it is a constant, just exploding thing. To your comment about clicks, well, clicks can be horrible. Clicks can be community groups, and there are a million of them at Senior Action. So I would encourage her to get involved in a lot of different things. And there are people who literally, like little butterflies, they'll go to their exercise class in the morning, they'll go to their art class, and they'll go have lunch. And then each group, they have a group of different people. My staff is fantastic. If we know who she is, we will love on her, and she won't like it anymore. And we'll get her involved in no, we don't offer counseling, but we do have this program that I'll tell you about. We partner with a lot of businesses and healthcare providers in Greenville, and so it's a really cool program. They come into our building and teach classes. They'll set up tables in the lobby through this program that we have. We do have mental health professionals who are part of that program, and so we can refer them to those. We do, every person that comes in, we do an assessment with them, so we kind of get to know what all they're facing, and we can refer to services that we don't offer. They have to, we will take them 5 miles to the nearest center. So if they, like for instance, we have a center at Sterling, the old Sterling School. And so in that, there's if you live within a certain mile radius of Sterling, we can take you there. And that's another thing. Each one of our centers is different. And there's a different group of people, different feel at every place. And some people might try one center and say, this is not for me. And, go to another center. But, that's just to have that choice to do that. Oh, that's a good question too. Currently, our funding is restricted to Greenville County. So there are other senior programs in other counties. So we kind of partner with those people, but we honor their boundaries, I guess, if you'd say. No, we do not get any funding from Greenville County or the city of Greenville. We do get, so since you asked that question, we get about 50% of our funding from federal and state grants. There was an act written in the 60s called the Older Americans Act, and it pays for medical transportation, lawn care, meals. But again, that's the one that we recommended here. There's no funding from federal or state for social programs. So that's one of the advocacy issues is if the insurance companies can figure that out, maybe we can figure that out another way. There's just a finite pot of money that doesn't seem to be getting bigger. Yes, well, I mean, I do an awful lot of advocacy as part of sometimes I introduce myself as the chief executive beggar. So I'm the fundraiser and I also do a lot of the advocacy work for us. But I'm part of some associations, state associations that work with lobbyists. But we're a 501c3, so we don't lobby. We advocate. How can volunteers get involved? Well, we have a volunteer coordinator. So you can call our office and say, hey, I'd like to volunteer. And we'll go through a little interview process and see what times you're available and that kind of thing. And we'll get you plugged in. One of the things that we have is we have a program on Tuesday nights for bingo. And it's a money-making bingo. It's not the kind that gives out socks and lotion. It's the kind that you get real dollars. And we're always looking for volunteers for that. A lot of times people who work like y'all can't volunteer during the day, but the bingo at night is a great way to help us raise money. It's a good fundraiser. You can come work our concession stand. You can come work the bingo. Love to welcome some Rotary folks one night to bingo. You can come play. I mean, let's walk out with some cash. I don't think I see any more hands. Well, thank y'all so much again for your time and for having me today.
Thank you, Andrea. I haven't seen her membership application yet, but who's in favor of Andrea becoming a member of Greenville? Hands, show of hands, show of hands. I think you're in. My name's Penny. I am your membership chair for the next year. And we've had an idea of maybe I can give an update every couple of weeks or so on what's going on as we make a few changes. So, but this weekend we went to, a few of us in the room went to the Membership PR Summit. And there were lots of topics covered, but the main umbrella then was, of course, growing Rotary, right? And going forward as the world has kind of changed after COVID. So what my takeaway was, my gasp moment, I think is what I call it, is when we learned that the breakdown of Rotary, 20% of the clubs in Greenville, or in our district, 7750, 20% since COVID, only 20% have grown their membership. The next 20% in the district of Rotary clubs has stayed stagnant, no growth whatsoever. So now I'm no math major, but there's 60% of the clubs in the district of 7750 have lost drastically in their membership count. And that's kind of global, actually. So it's not a Greenville problem or a district problem. It's a problem everywhere. So that was kind of what took me by surprise. And we went over a lot of topics on what we could do to curb that and to entice new members to join us, like Andrea. So just coming into this membership committee, we have bounced around lots of ideas. Some have been used before, some we're going to refresh, and some are brand new. And so I want to go over a couple of things. First off, today, you noticed that we've got a few more members standing at the door. We're going to start a welcome ambassadorship. It's not just for membership committee, it's for everybody in this room. If you can get here early, put on your badge and meet and greet the new people and your fellow Rotarians. We also want to do perhaps we might start even a Rotarian committee where we have everybody who's a red badger can stay in this committee. It's kind of like having a pledge class where you're all in the same boat. You're all working towards your blue badge. But for now, you kind of have your own community. So I think we're going to look into that. We've already started that Thirsty Thursday. We've had lots of fun. We've only had 4, and that's the first Thursday of the month. Come as you are after work. It's not about the beer. It's not about the wine or the bourbon. It isn't. There's great food available at these places, great camaraderie. We get to meet new people, and we get to know our fellow Rotarians a lot better. We want to maybe institute the poolside chat and the fireside chat again. so that we can entice those new members, those Red Badgers and their sponsors to come and learn about the committees. And that might be in a member's home or in their place of business. So be looking for that. We would like to reach out more diligently now to our missing members. And that would be something, if you feel like being on the membership committee, you might be asked to make a couple of calls every once in a while to say, hey, we miss you. It's time to come back. What can we do? Is there anything you need? But I also want us to talk about, we're going to kind of revamp what it is to be a sponsor of a new Rotarian. You don't get to come in the door and have them sit down and you think you're done. You're not done. You're not done until you're going to be a Blue Badger, or till your prospect is a Blue Badger, because this takes a lot of nuancing. A lot of people aren't comfortable coming into a room of strangers. So what your job is going to be, and forever how long it takes, you will be in charge of your candidate to get them to their Blue Badge. But your assignment this week really is to think about one person that you adore, that you admire, because everybody's got one person in their mind, and ask them, do the big ask, come to Discover Rotary with me. They don't have to go alone, come with me. And we'll walk through this journey together, because we've all got that. We've all got that person. Because you can give the gift of Rotary, you can give the gift of Discover Rotary, but you're really given a gift of yourself when you can bring someone else in. So let's start now. We got to get Greenville back up to where they belong, where they've been before in the past. And let's get us in that top 20% of the growing clubs. Thanks.
Thank you, Penny. That tied in very well with all our need for social connection and how good it will be for all of us. Okay, so thank you very much, Andrea. She has already signed her book, the thank you book, which will be donated to Alexander Elementary. Thank you to Jamise for your update on the wonderful things you're doing. You turned out to be a great person to receive the Service Above Self Scholarship. Thank you to all those who came out this past Friday. I think everybody has hopefully seen the pictures on social media, and you've hopefully liked all the pictures, shared the pictures, and done all those wonderful things on Facebook. For the teacher and staff cookout, we even had a few of the teachers chime in there and say thank you and how much they enjoyed the cookout. Thirsty Thursday, that also happened since our last meeting, and as Penny mentioned, that was a wonderful time. The weather was bad. We'll give you a little bit of a pass this month, but try to get there next month. Or we do have a few other events coming up where you can socialize and meet people in a smaller atmosphere. We have our coffee and conversation coming up on the 27th, 21st, Health and Happiness at the Cartwright Food Hall. If you haven't been there, get there and check that out. It's always good to see new places at these events. And let's see, anything else? Rotary International Training is available. We do have a few people interested, but if you are interested, the club will help fund that for you to go, and it is towards the end of this month in Duncan. And our next meeting, we will have the governor here, so everybody please attend, and let's stand now for the four-way test. Of the things we think, say, or do, truth, is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? We are adjourned.